Hi, my name is Garen Daly, and welcome to another installment of the Boston Sci-Fi podcast. We're doing a little something different today. We're not talking about film. We're not going to be talking about some sort of thing that we're going to be putting on at the Somerville Theater or something like that. Instead, we're going to be talking about Last Ship to Proxima Centauri. And it's a play that is over at the Portland Stage Company in Portland, Maine. And we have three people who know intimately about this play, and we're going to introduce them to you. So let's start off with Todd. Todd, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi there, my name's Todd Backus, and I'm the Literary Manager at Portland Stage.
Oh, yeah, but you have to tell us what a literary manager is, because nobody knows what a literary manager is.
Totally fair. Literary Manager is fancy for I read plays for a living and help theaters decide which ones to do.
Oh, cool. And Kevin, you're there too, and as I understand, you're the director?
Yes, I am Kevin R. Free, and I directed this production of Last Ship to Proxima Centauri. Yeah.
And Greg, you are not only the writer, correct, but you also won an award. Could you talk about what your background is and the award that you won?
Yep, I'm Greg Lam. I am a playwright, and the award I won was the Clauder Competition, which is Portland Stage's annual competition for playwriting from across New England. And so I entered in 2020, I believe, and then I was chosen out of a very talented field of playwrights for my spaceship play.
Is that what you call it? You call it your spaceship play?
Or Last Ship, the spaceship play, yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So why don't you tell people why you call it a spaceship play?
Well, the play is set on a spaceship that is completing its 2,000-year journey from the Earth, which is presumed to be abandoned because of environmental catastrophe, to its destination of Proxima Centauri B. So this spaceship was one of many to leave Earth in the Great Abandonment, as they call it. This one was from Seattle, and it was delayed due to a technical difficulty and had to take a 165-year detour. So it's later than all the other ships are presumed to arrive. The pilots take turns coming out of stasis to pilot the ship for their adult lives, and then go back in, and new pilots get refreshed. So these pilots on duty now are approaching, and they're excited to get to their destination. But when they start talking to the inhabitants of the new colony, they are not as welcome as they would have liked to have been when they get there.
So Kevin, have you ever directed a science fiction play before?
No, I have never directed a science fiction play before, but I was excited to direct this one because first, I will say that I've seen a fair amount of sci-fi, and I've seen a fair amount of sci-fi plays. And one of the great things about sci-fi plays that I have noticed is that they take issues from now and turn them inside out and place them in the future, or place them in a world that is a completely imaginative world. And that allows us as artists and audiences to focus on the relationships in the play. And why those relationships are the way they are, and how they work, and what their dynamics are. So I was excited to create a whole world based on Greg's brilliant world building that he did, to focus on the relationships in the play.
Todd, one of the things that we've seen at Boston Sci-Fi, and Kevin just kind of alluded to it right there, is how science fiction has a tendency to take current issues that are socially relevant and put them in a sci-fi world or a sci-fi trope. Is there anything that when you just did the live version, and I think the live version is ending today or tomorrow?
The live version ended a week or two ago, but streaming will be available until this coming Sunday.
Great. So people will be able to see it. But were there problems at all that you saw trying to make sure that people would relate to the science fiction and the social issues that you were raising?
The social issues, I mean, I think what attracted us to the play is the social issues that Greg brings up in this play are very much the types of issues that we would bring up in any number of other plays in the American theater. This is like very of a piece in terms of the conversation it's trying to have, which really attracted us to the piece. I think there's a lot of people, particularly in theater, who view fantasy and sci-fi as these like genre things that aren't really relevant to discussions about like what we're doing and why we're doing it here and now. But I think, and I believe Greg agrees with me on this, that like every fantasy author and every sci-fi author is interested in examining the here and now just through a lens. I don't think a Terry Pratchett or a Neil Gaiman or an Octavia Butler are not talking about here and now whenever they write, because what else can you talk about? But they're using fantasy to make it just a little different so that you can drop some of your preconceived notions about what that might mean in your life.
And Greg, when following off of what Todd just said, what are some of those themes that Last Ship to Proxima Centauri bring to the fore?
I mean, the genesis of the play was that, I started writing it when the issue of our world at the moment was the immigration crisis and child separation and people being imprisoned at the borders for wanting asylum. And I just tried to think of a situation in which Americans were the ones in the position of the refugee and needing to be treated fairly by a power greater than theirs. And so that's how I came up with a scenario of Americans in a escape ship being judged by their worst of the reputation, as opposed to their individual worth or anything else. So we have a lot about American ideals versus what America has been behaving like. We have a lot of race and class and other issues. So it's very much using the tradition of sci-fi as a way to talk about present issues in the play. It's sci-fi, but it's using sci-fi to really talk about politics, about the issues of the day and things affecting us all.
So, Kevin, are Americans bad? I've been dying to drop that question.
Well, speaking as an American, I would answer that by saying that I am sometimes bad.
And that was bad in a good way or bad way?
Well, I mean, that is up to you to decide. I think sometimes I'm also good. I think that that is such a good question. Are Americans bad? I would say no, but Americans are definitely not as good as we think they are, or as good as we think we are.
Yeah,
because I am an American, and I just came home from Europe, and I thought about the number of ways that I just assumed things would be because I am an American, and they're just not like that. So I think Americans are not bad, but we are not as good as we think we are.
It also depends on who gets to answer that question.
Right.
Yes, it's the old, the winner writes the history kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Mark, who is our director in the background, has a bunch of stills, and I thought I'd put up the stills, and I don't care who answers it, but Mark, when you put up a still, then we'll have people respond to it. So pick one and show it up. All right, what's going on here?
This is one of my favorite moments in this show. It's in Act 1, and we have the pilot, Morris Emerson, on the right-hand side. We also have Captain Adelaide Russell holding a startled Henry Hirano in the middle. And sorry, Addie is played by Marcy McGuigan, and Henry is played by Kennedy Kanagawa.
And Eddie's the captain of the ship, and Henry is just some buddy they pulled from deep freeze to help out for an tense situation.
Yeah. I'm not sure how far we want to go in terms of the description, but some of the conflict.
I think the question is why is she holding him?
So Kevin played a lot with these the venerated Star Trek practice of battle chaos whenever the Enterprise gets hit and everyone goes flying this way and that. And this is the result of one of a similar type of battle scene where people went flying in unexpected places.
All right, so this is Act 1. Mark, why don't you throw the second still up? Where are we here in this scene?
Well, here we've met a couple of the natives of the planet. So one thing I noticed during the production of this is that theater designers have been waiting all their damn lives to work on science fiction.
Really?
They have gone nuts. I mean, they were so excited. Everyone was just beaming at me saying how excited they are, from the people making props to costumes to the set design to people painting stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, we don't have to make a living room. We don't have to make like a park bench. We get to do cool stuff like spaceships and crazy costumes, like these native security officers that we were meeting in the center of the picture.
Yeah. On the left, we have Octavia Chavez Richmond as Paz, and then we have Jamal James as Tunde, and getting to see the costume designer build these like fabulous Yeni Dunyan is the name of the planet. These Yeni Dunyan security officer uniforms was just so fun and cool, and everybody wanted these shoes. Everybody wanted these gold shoes. It was very cool.
Were you giving them away? There's a merchandising opportunity there. Mark, why don't you show the third still that we have?
Oh, this is a lovely moment. This is so again, Octavia Chavez Richmond and Marcy McGuigan having a conversation. Captain Adelaide Russell is trying to get Officer Paz to release her because she's been shackled to the ship. And this scene has my favorite line of the play, which
I didn't know this.
Which tells me it tells me what is happening, and it is the moment when I believe that Captain Russell understands her fate. When she says, "What is the word for refugee?" and the response is criminal.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And it to me, a lot of the play radiated from there. Some of the
and whereabouts is this in the play?
This is pretty late too, yeah. And this scene is also entirely in Spanish. Addie is a little halting with her Spanish because she learned it in high school, whereas Paz is a fluent speaker. So there's also, you see Adelaide trying to like navigate, like, I don't have power here. I don't speak the language. How can I communicate my needs to you in a language I don't even really speak?
Right?
Yeah.
And correct. That was part of the theme behind what you're trying to do with the play, correct?
Yeah. I wrote the play so that when they arrive to the planet, they discover that the dominant language isn't English, just based on who made it to the planet and colonized it. And instead of speaking Klingon or Dothraki, they're speaking Chinese and Spanish, and that's equally alien to most Americans.
All right, so
you can actually see that in the TV screen they have the translations. So if you're at the theater itself, when you get to Chinese and Spanish scenes, you're getting super titles, and when you stream it, you'll get subtitles for those. So we're not completely leaving English speakers out in the cold. And I am a monolingual English speaker as well, so I had to contract some people to help me with Chinese and Spanish translations.
Well, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you a minute clip of the play itself. And again, we'll be able to talk a little bit about it after we do it. So, Mark, if you could screen that minute clip, please.
They're talking too fast for me.
Welcome. Please respond by saying the name of the language that you primarily speak.
English. We speak English. American English.
Please hold. Now what?
Please hold, I guess.
Please hold. It's okay. We've been waiting, what, 2,000 years? We can wait a little bit longer to get to our new home.
When you say it like that, Morris.
To our new home.
Here. And to Earth. We're sorry we fucked you up. We'll try to do better with this one.
Hey! Do you think we'll get a parade?
What?
A parade! We got sidetracked for so long. They probably thought we were lost for good. 714 arc lights made it, but where's number 715? And now, here we are, the prodigal sons, blast from the past. They probably thought all hope was gone. 165 years late will be a miracle.
Spoiler, they do not get a parade.
Actors, are they local? I mean, what's the story behind that?
Yeah. Todd can tell you more of the story around it, but I just want to say watching that clip kind of choked me up a little bit because we worked so hard on that play, and those two actors worked so hard on this play, and it was not an easy journey for them, and they did such a beautiful job in the end. And so yes, they are local. One of those actors, Tom Ford, I have known since the early 2000s because we acted in a play together, a musical together in 2002 in Idaho. And so I knew, like myself, I live in New York City. I was a New York actor. He was a New York actor. And then he moved to Idaho, and now he's moved to Portland, Maine. Right? Todd?
Yeah, no, he's about to become my new neighbor. He's moving like 2 blocks away from where I am right now.
Oh, very nice. And yeah. Marcy McGuigan was also a New York actor for many years. And during the pandemic, she moved away from New York and moved up to Maine. And I think we all realized different things during the pandemic. And one of them was that we could live wherever we want and still work as actors. We don't have to be in New York and LA. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
And then Kennedy, Octavia, and Jamal are all from New York. We've worked with Octavia before, right before the pandemic. We actually had a show that got shut down that she was in. And we were really excited to have her back. And a student show that was supposed to come to see the show that got canceled actually got to see Octavia finally in this play. Which very different show from Native Gardens by Karen Zacharias, but they enjoyed her performance nonetheless.
You know, both of you guys have just mentioned the pandemic and the COVID experience, and we had our own experience with Boston Sci-Fi, and I'm wondering, can you encapsulate what the COVID pandemic, how it affected Portland stage and perhaps you and your own careers briefly? I know it's probably very difficult, but a little bit of your experience might be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, like many theaters and many other live arts organizations, we were forced to pivot pretty quickly in 2020. We have shifted our new works programming to happen online, which meant that Kevin and Greg got to work together safely with all of these actors, like during the height of parts of the pandemic. We also last season shifted to like smaller shows in terms of cast size so that we could control COVID testing protocols and make sure that everyone was safe, and had a lot of like masking, you got to show your vaccine card to get in the door, stuff that we're still continuing through this year, even as the pandemic's waning, because a lot of our subscribers still don't feel quite safe enough to come back inside without that assurance. And like, I get that. So we've been, playing to smaller houses than we would like, but we've also the silver lining of the pandemic for me is that a number of the unions, including Actors Equity, the scenic designers unions, the stage directors unions, got together and said, like, it would be a shame if we only like did these shows to small houses. We should find a way to be able to record and stream them, which is part of why we're able to provide this stream of Last Ship to Proxima Centauri to people for another couple days.
Do you think that creating virtual pieces to your live stage productions is going to enhance your audience, or is it just sort of a stopgap?
I think for me, and I know a number of other theaters feel this way, I think it's a really great thing for accessibility. Theater is so tied to location and time, unlike other mediums like films. You don't have to just be in one place to see a film. You could see a film where you are, even if it's happening in Georgia or whatever. And I think this has allowed a wider audience of people to see our stuff, but also it's cheaper. And like dropping $50 on a show that you're not sure if you want to see with a theater that you don't know the track record of is a hard sell. And saying like, I could put this on for like $25. That's an easier sell in terms of access for people.
Are the tickets that much cheaper for the virtual versus the actual? So it's $50 to $25. Those are actual prices.
$50 is like the high end for us, but it's 20 or 25 for streaming tickets.
Okay. We're going to wrap up in a second or two. I thought I'd go through and say, Kevin, what should people be taking away after they watch The Last Ship to Proxima Centauri?
What I would hope that people take away, or that people do after seeing the play, is that they discuss the things that made them laugh and discuss the things that made them feel a little sad. And I would love for them just to talk to each other in the same way that we do after we see like a kick-ass Marvel film. Like, I would hope that people would talk about that. I think I also want people to see all of that incredible work. It's like Greg said, those designers killed this play. Like, they brought it to life. They didn't kill it. They loved it to life. It's so incredible, the details that they did, and to see that on a stage, and to think if you're streaming it, oh my God, I could have seen this on stage. I hope people feel bad that they didn't see it.
That's one of the things that I do believe about virtual, is that if you do it really, really well, people are going to want to go to the source. And that's where they'll experience it. And Greg, my final question for you is, you wrote this play. I'm sure you're working on other things, but I wanted to ask you about the virtual versus the live community, and how you as a writer feel them, or how you experience them.
It's interesting, when the pandemic happened, just shortly thereafter, a lot of different groups just said, we got to do something. And then they came up with different things. Zoom theater became a big thing once in a while. And for a while, two people in their living room was exactly as capable of producing the best theater in the world as the biggest Broadway house with all the resources. For months that was the case, and some of that have faded away now, and some that still persist. There are things that started up during the early days of pandemic online that are still going on and still going strong, and some have shifted, and it's interesting because I had only had one full-length production before the pandemic, and then I had a virtual production of Last Ship during the pandemic from Kitchen Dog Theater. So they sort of did the whole thing, but they couldn't have an audience because they couldn't have an audience in winter of 2021. So they just basically did it, filmed it, and did a virtual thing. And now we've had in-person and virtual at Portland Stage. And it is, as a writer, having everyone go online and do stuff online and collaborate online has been opened a lot of doors. It's been really interesting. It's produced fun work, but being in person is irreplaceable as well. And I will always want there to be online options and components, but theater is live, ideally.
Yeah, there's something about feeling it. You can really feel it. I mean, it's one thing to be moved emotionally with the visual image, but actually being there and feeling the performance is a different thing. And before my last question for you is, could you talk a little bit about what you see the future of Portland stage is going to look like?
I mean, we are continuing to. This season has been really great because we've been honoring a lot of commitments to playwrights that we made before and during the pandemic. So like this year, we did 5 world premiere plays. We're about to head into rehearsal for our last world premiere play. And I think we're going to continue to invest in like living writers and doing new work with people that speaks to our community the way that Greg's play has and the way that we hope other plays do. And we're going to keep trying to be the best version of live theater that we can be, and hopefully get some people that are still worried about the theater to see it in other ways.
Is Portland a good town for that?
Oh, Portland's a great theater town. We produce so much more theater than we have any right to, given the amount of people that live here. There's just like a really thriving art scene up here, especially in the theater community.
Cool. Anyways, folks, thank you so much, Kevin, Greg, Todd, for joining us on this podcast. The play is called Last Ship to Proxima Centauri. Centauri Proxima. Did I get that backwards?
Proxima Centauri.
No, I didn't get it. Sometimes.
Right.
It's been a long day. So anyways, and it's streaming online until the 3rd. You can get tickets by going to portlandstage.org. My name is Garen Daly. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.